Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is Xena Warrior Princess, Season 1, Episode 4, Cradle of Hope. The episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So, in this episode, it begins with King Gregor getting a prophecy told to him by someone reading stones. And she basically tells him that in her vision, she foresees a child within Gregor's possession, and he then says that's impossible. My son died with his mother in childbirth just a few months ago. And then she says it's not a child of your bloodline, it's a child that you have, in your possession. And it is then revealed that one of the servants died in childbirth, giving birth to a son also a few months ago. And this is then believed to be the child that's in his possession, because obviously back then, as a king, the child of his servant would be, within his household. And so she basically then foresees that this child is going to grow up and occupy his throne. She doesn't say that he's going to steal it or usurp it or anything like that, but that he will occupy it in the future. And this is when the advisor decides that the baby has to die, and the king, a little bit weaker than he used to be in his grief, basically agrees to put out a request for this baby to be brought to him. Of course, one of the servants who is caretaking on behalf of the mother that passed on overhears this, and so they put the baby in a basket, send it down the river, and who should happen upon it but Xena and Gabrielle? They then find the baby and decide they need to find out what happened to its mother, because it's obviously an odd thing for a baby to be sent down a river in a basket. And then they, on their way to this kingdom, happen across a woman named Pandora, who is the granddaughter of the mythological Pandora who opened Pandora's box, and she's still carrying the box, which is said to have hope still trapped inside of it, which is why mankind has hope, and every day before midnight she has to relock it or it will open on its own. And so they then bring her along with them after they save her from an angry mob who's angry at her grandmother's actions. And they happen to enter the town. Once they enter the town with the baby, the barkeep sends a runner to the castle to say, hey, there's this baby with like 3 random women who's looking for the mother of this baby, so it's obviously not theirs, probably the baby you want. And so the guards come and attack them. They manage to save and protect the baby, but the box is stolen. So they then have to deal with that because they obviously don't want it to open on its own at midnight, but they also don't want the baby to die. And so in the end, Xena sets up a meeting with Gregor and his advisor Nemos to come and negotiate for the box back. However, they want the baby in exchange for the box, and while she looks at Gregor and doesn't see evil, obviously Nemos wants to kill the baby because he's ambitious, and is convinced that the baby is going to usurp the throne one day and gather an army and take it over by force. So then Xena is left to infiltrate the castle. She disguises herself as one of the servants who is going to dance Gabrielle finds the servant that put the baby in the river, and she reveals that she can't sneak him in that night because there is a banquet taking place, and that the servant girls are going to have to dance for Nemos, who's going to choose one. And Nemos is the one who has the box, so Xena takes her place, becomes one of the dancers, is the one chosen by Nemos, but before she can get the box, the king takes the box himself. But while Xena is dressed up as a dancer, she does overhear the fact that Nemos is planning to usurp the throne from the king if he should show some weakness and want to care for the baby. She then knocks Nemos out, goes to the king's room, sees him crying over the cradle that he had created for his future son, realizes what the prophecy truly would mean, manages to steal the box and escape from Nemos, who goes after her. And then she goes back in later to confront Gregor directly with the baby and basically tells him the prophecy does not mean he's going to usurp your throne. It means you're going to adopt him and he's going to be your heir and one day take over the throne. But of course, Nemos then decides to actually commit treason and sends the guards against the king as well and tries to kill the baby again. Once again, baby is saved, Nemos is defeated, and in the end, Gregor and Pandora decide to raise the child together, and they ask what if they can do anything for Xena, who helped bring this about, and she decides to tell them to name the baby Gabriel because that's what Gabrielle wanted to name it after herself when they found the baby, and so she then leaves, and her and Gabrielle, before they leave, take a look at the box again and accidentally knock it over and discover that it's actually been completely empty the entire time. Hope actually wasn't still in the box, but they decide not to tell Pandora that, and they put it back as it is and continue on to their next adventure. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in this episode, it is time to rank the episode, first on the mostly objective ranking, followed by the personal ranking. So we start with our single episode supporting character introduction, and we of course have Pandora, King Gregor, and Nemos the evil advisor, which, frankly speaking, across this universe, like this whole fandom, Hercules and Xena themselves, like both of them, the advisors always seem to be evil and trying to take over rather than doing what they're supposed to and advising the kings. They're either giving terrible advice, trying to usurp the throne and take over, or trying to lead the kings down bad choices or collect power for themselves. Either way, the advisors in this fandom are terrible, and Nemos is no exception. Anyways, moving on from that, that's 3 points. Then I gave another point for the single episode supporting character development because I do feel it is a significant development that both Gregor and Pandora decide to raise the baby Gabriel together, and that, well, that came out of nowhere because they didn't really have any contact until that final scene where they decide baby needs a mother, so that'll be Pandora, and the father will be King Gregor. Um, so I thought that was significant enough of a development to give an extra point. So that brings us to 4. Then we have um, the multi-season main character development, which is Xena as a dancer, because we did not know she could dance, and now we know that she can dance. And honestly, the costume was pretty. Um, And then we have another 4 points for the world building piece, which is the fact that in this universe, of course, Pandora's box is real, and that it was opened not that long ago because it's just Pandora's grandmother who was the one who opened it. Um, and that Pandora has to lock it every night because otherwise Hope will escape, which was the only thing that the original Pandora was able to trap, except we learned at the end of the episode that was not the case. But either way, another 4 points for that. Which brings us up to 12. However, we do have some negatives as well. Um, First negative messaging or behavior, trying to kill a baby. Babies are harmless. Babies are innocent. Trying to kill a baby. Voldemort did that. So I think we can all say evil. Um, -2 points. Threatening to do mankind so that you can kill a baby is also very bad behavior. Nemos flat out refuses to give the box up, even when he knows it's going to open on its own at midnight. He even threatens to open it himself earlier if they don't get the baby so that he can kill it, which is evil. -2 for that too. And then obviously -2 for the treason that Nemos eventually commits upon the king when the king decides to actually listen to Xena and go, wait, you're totally right. Obviously, that prophecy means I'm going to adopt this baby. I don't have an heir. He's a motherless child, a mother and fatherless child. I am a father with no baby to love because my heir and my beloved wife already passed on, match made. But Nemos does not want to hear that happen, decides the king's too weak, and decides that he's going to commit treason and get all the guards to turn on their king. Luckily, again, that plot is foiled, and there's a happy ending, but still minus 2 points. So that ultimately leaves us with a 6 out of 10 for this episode. And that brings us to, in first, Sins of the Past, Dreamworker. This episode, Cradle of Hope, comes in third place, and Chariots of War is in fourth. And then my personal ranking for this episode is, well, an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a very good episode. It was very entertaining. Um, there was obviously a lot of evil in this episode, and there was action with multiple fight scenes. There was the protection of this baby. There was the incorporation of the Pandora myth into the episode. Gregor turns out to be a good guy. All the evil happened to come from his evil advisor, which is pretty standard for this universe. And yeah, I just ultimately really enjoyed this episode. I even found it funny at the end when Xena tells him to name the baby Gabriel because that's what Gabrielle wanted. Because obviously they've now become best friends as they have traveled together, which is obvious because she is Xena's sidekick character. But yeah, I can't think of anything that I disliked really about the episode other than the fact that they didn't think of this at the start. Like, to me, it was a very predictable end. I mean, Pandora was a bit of a wild card. I did not remember that she was going to end up raising the child with Gregor, but I basically was like, as soon as the prophecy was made, I was like, obviously the baby's going to be adopted. Like, that's going to be the end. It was just a matter of how they went about getting there. Um, and really, the other thing that I found a little bit unbelievable about the episode was the fact that everybody knows what Pandora's box looks like. Like, it's a box with a handprint on the top, but really, this mob of like farmers is going to know what Pandora's box looks like and therefore attack Pandora and try to lynch her, which is what they were doing. Like, they were attacking her, trying to hang her from a tree because of her grandmother's crime that wasn't even her crime. Meanwhile, she's the one who's keeping the box locked. But either way, like, how did these farmers, these random, like, in that time, it's not the technology age. Not everybody has access to like all the knowledge of the world. So even if they've heard Pandora's myths, how would they know she was the granddaughter, and how would they know that was Pandora's box? That was just a little bit out there for me because I don't think Pandora went around like advertising, here is Pandora's box and I'm carrying it, everybody, see. Like, she wasn't doing that. So it's like, how did they find out? Which is a little bit unbelievable. So for those reasons, I did take the 2 points off and I did give it an 8 out of 10 rather than a 10 out of 10. But overall, I really enjoyed the episode and it was entertaining and engaging the entire time I was watching it, which is why I have it in second place. So first we had The Sins of the Past, followed by Cradle of Hope, Dreamworker, and then Chariots of War in last place so far. And on our series ranking so far, mostly objective ranking is at 29 out of 240, and the personal ranking is at 30 out of 240. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Xena Warrior Princess Season 1, Episode 4, Cradle of Hope. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.